Great. Thank you, Chairman.
I would note that Professor Vladeck just said if a majority of this committee thinks that senators subject to subpoena should be notified that they could pass the law, well, magically we used a time machine to do that because Congress passed that into law in 2004. It is in the United States Code. It is black-lettered law, and Judge Boasberg disregarded that. Now, he did so at the invitation of Jack Smith. And I would say my Democrat colleague said, well, gosh, it's standard practice not to tell a judge the number you're subpoenaing. It is not standard practice to subpoena 20% of the Republicans in the Senate and the opposing party. And I'm confident my Democrat colleagues would be really pissed if the Trump DOJ subpoenaed 20% of the Democrats in the Senate and concluded with no basis in fact that the mere fact that they are Democrats demonstrates that they...
Not clear,
Senator
so
Hirono can respond, but you can... I'm happy to recognize you to respond, but I would ask you not to interrupt me because I am not interrupting you. I am certain my Democrat colleagues would be unhappy if the Trump DOJ... I'm asking you not to interrupt me, Senator Hirono. I did not interrupt you. I am speaking now, and I will recognize you to respond when I conclude in speaking. I am confident my Democrat colleagues would be deeply unhappy if the Trump DOJ subpoenaed 20% of the Democrats in the Senate and concluded the mere fact that they're Democrats means they are likely to be criminals. And I do want to note also my prediction that no senator would mention Judge Boardman's name proved wrong with the penultimate Democrat speaker. Senator Hirono did mention her name, and 100% of what she said is the decision is on appeal. And I would welcome any of my Democrat colleagues to say that Judge Boardman's decision to deviate downwards by 22 years to reward an assassin, an attempted assassin, the Supreme Court justice is anything but disgraceful, brazen, and encouraging more political...
A dramatic confrontation erupts in the U.S. Senate as lawmakers clash over subpoenas, judicial decisions, and political accountability. Tensions rise when accusations fly about targeting senators, judicial discretion, and the limits of government power. Watch this intense exchange unfold and decide who made the stronger case in this explosive debate.
More political assassinations to defend it as anything other than a complete dereliction and abuse of her oath of office. Senator Hirono, you're welcome to respond.
You know, you talk about using facts. Well, the law that we refer to is not exactly clear on who bears the responsibility for asking who the heck's records are being subpoenaed. And by the way, if you want to blame somebody for the fact that 20% of Republican senators' records were subpoenaed, you can blame President Trump because he's the one who was calling all of you, or he had his minions calling all of you. So there you go. That's all I have to say.
You know, it is an amazing statement that Democrats now believe that the fact that a member of the Senate speaks to the President of the United States is sufficient to subpoena their phone records and presume they are criminals.
Why don't we move on?
Because, Senator, you don't get to say move on because you don't have the gavel, but I will say this. Sad to say, well, perhaps if you hadn't presided over a disastrous economy and an open border and wars across the globe, you might still have the majority, but you don't. And my point is very simple. It is not a criminal conduct to speak with the President of the United States, and it is ludicrous to suggest that it is.
And of course, I didn't make that suggestion, so that's why I'm saying, can we move on with this?
And while we're doing that, since Professor Vladeck mentioned a letter from Director Conrad at the Administrative Office of the United States Courts, I'd offer that letter that he mentioned as an additional exhibit.
The letter will be admitted without objection.
If you find this political breakdown interesting, please give me a thumbs up and as well, like and subscribe for more.